Hey, how's it going, everyone? So today we're going to be reacting to Overlord Season 3 changes and cut content. What did the anime change? Meta-narrative and plot holes by Annie News. Go ahead and get into it.
I'm sure that you've probably realized by now that Overlord has quite a bit of depth to it. There's so
That's a
much more to
very
it than
good
what we've
show.
seen in the anime. Though the anime is still great on its own, the light novel is a whole nother separate monster. It's filled with so much more lore and insight into all the characters and world that it'd be a shame for you not to know the full extent of the fictional creation that is Overlord.
I'm sold. I'm definitely going to be getting the light novel at some point in time. I'm most likely, if it's already fully translated, then I'll buy it. If not, I'm going to wait till it's fully translated and then I'll buy it.
So, welcome to a series co-created by myself and Jinfor, where we go into what exactly from the light novel was cut and changed from the anime, and how does it impact the show as a whole. This episode will be covering what was skipped from the first few episodes of Season 3, which translates to the light novel's Volume 8. It will serve as essentially a test pilot to what could potentially turn out to be a full-on series. So if you do end up liking this type of content, then be sure to let me know in the comments, and if there's enough love, then we can definitely make plans to go all the way back to Season 1 and do a full collection of videos that covers what was cut from the anime up.
Hey, if you actually do end up seeing this Annie News, I would really appreciate if you went back and did some more of those videos. I really enjoy these, and I would really enjoy to see more of the cut content because I know you weren't able to put everything into the videos. So I would really appreciate you going back and throwing in extra little, even little minuscule details. Those would be amazing.
Up until what's currently aired on TV. Now, let's begin. As most anime do when they adapt a lengthy source material, they attempt to keep things simple for the viewer and
I think that's that anime I was talking about earlier, R. Frueta. That might not be. That might be the dungeon one. I think it's. Anyway, that's probably the one with. Oh, I can't even think of her name. It's the oldest sister in Greek gods, and also the youngest sister at the same time. She was the firstborn, but the last spit up by their dad. She's the goddess of the hearth. I can't think of her name, but Hestia. That's probably the anime with Hestia.
fit as much of the plot into as few episodes as possible. This is especially the case for Overlord, because the anime tends to fit a whole novel into 3 or 4 episodes by shifting the order of events from how they had appeared in the light novel. You see, the light novel would sometimes deliberately present events out of order in order to conceal certain bits of information, which would then enhance the suspense and mystery. The anime, however, would remove
Yeah,
that
he's
and just
mentioned that
present the
before.
events chronologically to keep
I
things
wish
simple.
they would have built the
That
suspense up
being
a little
said,
more.
I wouldn't be too concerned
That's
about
one thing I
missing out
liked
on
about
too much from the
what is it called? Dragon Ball Z. The suspense getting to the next episode, waiting that week. Then again, I guess that's not really a thing. Like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. If people watch the simulcast.
past seasons, because most of the timeline changes made to the previous volumes adapted in Season 1 and 2 were relatively harmless. Unfortunately, that wasn't entirely the case for this season. Season 3 chose to bypass Volume 7 and go straight to Volume 8, all while rearranging a lot of the events of Volume 8, which resulted in just completely destroying its meta-narrative. And what I mean by that is that the way that you were intended to read and enjoy it was disrupted by the shifting of the scenes. A lot of the mystery, suspense, and comedy just disappeared, and even something of a minor plot hole was actually introduced. So the first thing that you should know is that Volume 8 is technically a prequel. Although the developments it has are required to lead into the events of Volume 9, it's actually set between Volume 4, the Lizardmen arc, and Volume 5, the Kingdom arc. So while Sibas, Climb, and Brain are doing their things in the Kingdom, Enri and Neferia are simultaneously dealing with their problems in the forest. So that means the anime chose to complete the Kingdom arc from Season 2, then go straight to Volume 8, rather than go to Volume 7, which it should have. Probably in order to have some sort of steady timeline, rather than just a bunch of time skips back and forth. Unfortunately, this change had a few negative implications throughout the narrative of Volume 8, as how it was adapted by the first few episodes of Season 3. More specifically, it was the opening scenes where Ainz humorously discovers that Nazarick has been operating with the intentions of taking over the world. This scene was split into 2 parts.
From that one line, just that once. Just once, my lord. I forgot exactly how it was, but yeah, that was a great scene right there.
The opening scenes of episodes 1 and
Look,
2.
the mouth hanging open.
Originally, it was intended to foreshadow the events of the Tomb Invasion arc, but instead it was modified to foreshadow the Carne Village arc. So, what type of plot hole could have stemmed from some minor adjustment like this? Well, it pretty much makes Lupus Regina look really dumb. In the anime, she's told alongside the rest of the Guardians while at the assembly that Ainz intends to take over the world. It was also during this announcement that Demiurge very clearly stated that Carne Village was an important piece to that. So you'd think that a being so devoted to Ainz and his master plan would at least be paying attention to a gathering that literally almost every entity of Nazarick was in attendance of. But as we saw a few episodes later, she clearly must not have been listening, since she calmly watches various forces threaten its safety, all while gleefully hoping for its destruction. It's a direct contradiction to what Ainz would have wanted.
That actually made her seem like she was gonna backstab Ainz or betray Ainz, but I'm guessing that's not the case.
In the light novel, this didn't happen because the gathering didn't take place until well after Carne Village had been attacked. And at no point during that ceremony in the novel...
Now see, this makes a lot more sense. Why did the anime not do this?
...was it stated that Carne Village was this crucial piece in Ainz's master plan. Sure, Lupus Regina was told to watch over Carne Village, but Ainz doesn't directly state his process or plan in any amount of detail. Since, well, he just doesn't want to look stupid or incompetent in front of the Guardians. Instead, he hopes that they'll be able to figure it out for themselves, and then everything will just fall into place after that. So, in actuality, all Lupus really knows is to just watch over Carne Village without knowing the why behind it, or even whether watching over it was supposed to mean guard it or just spy on it. All in all, though, it's really not too significant of a plot hole. In either case, she makes unexpected assumptions due to her sadistic evil personality. But in the light novel, it's Ainz's fault for not spelling things out, as well as failing to understand Lupus's personality and disposition. Whereas in the anime, it's Lupus's fault for being an idiot and not listening to Demiurge clearly state that Ainz subjugated the village and ruled over them peacefully as an experiment for world domination, as opposed to just
make her
wiping
seem
them
like
out.
she wasn't listening at the
This,
beginning,
along
for
with
sure.
the fact that she was ordered to deliver alchemy equipment to Neferia to make potions, and provide the village golems to build walls to defend themselves, should have made it abundantly clear that he wanted them kept alive. Even if we were to put that aside, it's still possible that she projected her sadistic personality onto Ainz's orders and misinterpreted them accordingly. There's really not too much of a difference in mentality between. For example, Ainz declared them loyal subjects of Nazarick who were important to the founding of the kingdom and told me to watch over them while providing them assistance and resources. As they are now loyal underlings of Ainz, they should be happy to suffer and die as playthings for Ainz's amusement. Versus, Ainz spared random villagers and told me to watch over them while helping them out a little. He must intend for them to one day suffer and die as playthings for his amusement. So they're not entirely different, but the former is a much bigger leap in logic than the latter. As previous arcs have made clear, attacking those under the dominion of Nazarick, whether they are originally from Nazarick or otherwise, is a direct affront to the name of Ainz himself and the legacy of the Supreme Ones. So that was the plot.
Ainz will not stand for any of his people being hurt. If Ainz was ruler of the world, everybody would be his people. He would not stand for anybody being hurt. The true equality thing that he's wanting, I kind of like that a lot.
Plot hole. Now let's talk about this meta-narrative, because you should really know how the story was meant to be portrayed. Then next episode we can look at the specific scenes that were impactful in the novel but skipped in the anime. So in addition to changing the overall sequence of the light novels, the show also moves a lot of scenes around within the narrative itself, again just to simplify things. You see, Volume 8 is actually split into two separate stories. The first half is called Enri's Tumultuous and Hectic Days, and it follows the events from Enri's point of view only. The second half of the novel is called A Day in the Life of Nazarick, and follows virtually the same events, but from the perspective of Ainz ul Gon and Nazarick. The readers are deliberately kept in the dark about what Ainz is doing, and more importantly, why he is doing it. Well, at least it is that way until the second half of the book. If this pattern was to be maintained in the anime, we'd see episodes 2, 3, and 5 first, which were the events involving Enri, followed by episodes 1 and 4, which are the ones with Ainz and Nazarick. Overlord as a novel relies very heavily on mystery and suspense to power both its comedy and drama. It's able to keep important information concealed from the reader by showing different points of view of the same situation. The initial perspective and the following perspective are often shown to be very contrasting because you reveal the inner thoughts and assumptions of two completely different characters. That way, you're given one impression first by spending this lengthy time essentially inside their head. You begin to identify with them and view things from their perspective, and most often make incorrect assumptions about what other characters are thinking, since you're obviously not seeing things from their perspective. Once you do see things from the eyes of another character, this allows the author to reveal, for dramatic or humorous effect, the difference between what the readers think is happening versus what's actually happening. So as I'm sure you can imagine, there were a lot of mysteries throughout Volume 8. The first and biggest is what time the events of the book took place, both relative to each other and relative to the larger series. The reader naturally assumes that the book is taking place after the events of Volume 7, the Tomb Invasion arc. The second mystery is what exactly were Ainz and Nazarick doing during the events of the first half. It's almost as if they allowed Carne Village to be nearly destroyed. Because remember, the first half is just Henry's perspective. We have no clue as to what Ainz or Lupus were doing while these goblins and ogres are attacking. But as we already know, not only were they the cause of the forest being stirred up, but they also sat around while the village was being sieged. You naturally assume that Lupus reported what was happening to Ainz. I mean, from Henry's perspective, she seems overly curious as to what's going on. She's been there at all the important strategy meetings, and has appeared to be quite friendly with most of the villagers, and maybe even concerned with their well-being. So why is she not helping them in their time of need? It's not like Ainz doesn't want to give it to them either. He obviously seems to care for the village. I mean, he did give Neferia the alchemy equipment, helped to construct their defenses, and even aided Henry during her time of need at Irantel as Momo. So to the reader, it just doesn't make sense. But then you get even more confused when Lupus Regina says that she's looking forward to Carne Village getting destroyed.
Yeah,
This makes you wonder,
that makes you like,
is she a traitor?
exactly.
Does she not realize how important Carne Village is? Or did the orders Ainz give her involve something more than we're already aware of? It's quite confusing and there's no clear answer. You naturally grow to care about what's happening to Henry and those around her after spending so much time seeing things from their perspective. And you know that Nazarick can just swoop in at any time with their overwhelming power and resolve basically any situation. So why don't they? When the siege of Carne Village does happen, the only support Nazarick ever gives is Lupus Regina showing up randomly near the end to bail Henry and Neferia out of their dire situation. So this leaves you wondering, did Nazarick drop the ball? Is Lupus Regina untrustworthy? Or were they perhaps too busy to help the village after the events of the Tomb Invasion of Volume 7? Remember, you don't even know that the events take place before the Kingdom arc of Volume 5 yet. So ultimately, what exactly is Ainz's master plan here? He seemed to profess his ignorance to the whole situation when he invited Henry and Neferia over for dinner, claiming that he was completely unaware of the situation, though as a reader you know that's not true since Momon became wary of it while in Irantel. This brings us to the second half of the novel, which resolves both the mysteries that we're confronted with. When does this take place, and where was Nazarick this whole time? So at first, we're given several scenes of the goings-ons inside Nazarick, though you can't really deduce how it fits into the overall timeline, or how it even relates to the first half of the book. We see a little about how Ainz manages Nazarick, get some scenes with the Lizardmen, follow Mare on a journey through multiple floors as he meets a selection of fun characters, and the Guardians have even been assigned to go on vacation, which I'll go into more detail in the next episode. But through all these random humorous and dumb events, we come to a point where we can guess that these scenes are taking place during Sebas's mission in the capital, placing us during or before Volume 5 and 6's events in the Kingdom. It's not until Ainz heads off to Irantel in a hurry that we notice that we're following the events of Henry's journey into Irantel from Ainz's point of view. Suddenly, everything begins to click into place. These two halves of Volume 8, which you initially might assume are completely separate stories, are actually occurring simultaneously. We go from forgetting that there were all these unsolved mysteries to resolving almost all of them at once. As it turns out, Ainz and Nazarick had just been screwing around the entire time, entirely unaware that Carne Village was going through this monumental crisis. It wasn't that Ainz and Nazarick was too busy to help after their tomb had just been invaded. Hell, that hadn't even happened yet. Then when Ainz confronts Lupus about this crisis, she's just revealed to be a dunce that feigns ignorance on the importance of the matter. You can't help but laugh at the ridiculous coincidence of it all. But it gets even better. It's soon revealed that Ainz was actually behind the siege of Carne Village in the first place. He was the one that ordered the remnants of the Giant and the Serpent's armies to go attack Carne Village. Everything in Light Novel 8 is put into context. It turns out nobody in Nazareth, least of all Lupus Regina, really cares about what happens to Carne Village. Hell, Ainz doesn't even seem to care that much. He went ahead and nonchalantly ordered a false flag operation on the village. There was no master plan. Ainz came up with it all in the spur of the moment as he was looking down Overlord's corpse.
What?
And the rest of Nazareth are just being their usual dastardly sadistic selves. It's quite shocking and hilarious. In the order the anime presents, the mystery is mostly removed, and so is some of the comedy. Nazareth's communication is presented before the events of Carne Village, so the contrast isn't so humorous. We also know what Ainz was doing and why, well before the climax of the arc is resolved. Any mysteries from one episode are resolved in the next. There isn't that lingering sense of unease and confusion that persists over the full arc for a dramatic reveal later on. All you have to do is just tune into the next episode to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Now that you know this, if you had to describe Overlord's genre, it wouldn't be an isekai or a drama. It'd be a farce, a black comedy. Nearly all of the characters are designed to be tropes, either heroic tropes or villainous tropes.
But still
and
isekai.
The light novels alternate between playing them for laughs, mocking their misery, and trolling the readers. It's been said that Ainz and Nazarick are basically the Addams family, and nearly everything that happens in Overlord serves to set up some punchline or joke later on. People, innocent or evil, have their lives turned upside down, or just lose them entirely, just because most of Nazarick is sadistic and Ainz is oblivious to the details of what they happen to be doing. And even when he is aware, he easily rationalizes things away because he lacks any empathy, having been stripped of it due to his undead emotional suppression. Furthermore, the contrast between the two leaders, Enri and Ainz, is the focal point of the book. Ainz is a very unusual character, because when we see things from his point of view, he's usually concerned with doing things in a way that isn't blatantly evil. He is usually polite and respectful, and very concerned with how other people will think of how he acts. Not because he necessarily wants to manipulate them, but
when you think about a lich, he's not really a true lich in that sense. He is, some parts of him are closer to that of an arc lich, but he is no arc lich at all.
Because he's very self-conscious. That being said, he does tend to miss really important things. He has a one-tracked mind that
He's got
gives
like a
him
chaotic neutral, maybe a chaotic good side.
It can be very difficult to
morality.
figure out what Ainz is actually thinking about something, or what Ainz is going to do when we're not following his point of view. Because we don't know what he knows or what he's focused on. It makes for some extremely dramatic and suspenseful storytelling when we don't necessarily know what Ainz is going to do or why, or when we make unfounded assumptions about what he's aware about. This is important because the fate of anyone and everyone in the world is basically up to his whims. This allows Overlord to set up some brilliantly shocking or hilarious plot lines, and this is something that's completely lost when the show reorders everything chronologically
plan to make things...
and fills in the missing information.
I want to say he might be chaotic evil, but at the same time, his plan to make things, or make everybody equal, that's not evil. That's like that's great. Making everybody equal, all races, that's a good plan there.
For you. But yeah, that's a general summary of the experience that you missed out by watching the anime instead of reading the light novel. Now, the actual cut content will be covered in the Overlord video after my Demiurge one. But hopefully you like this type of content because there's still plenty more to go through and plenty more that can be made for the future. So be sure to let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments. Now, thanks again to Jinfor for doing the research on this, and thank you guys for watching. So as always, if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao!
I really liked it. As always, it's really nice seeing all the stuff I missed. Can't wait to check the next video out. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next.